Hi everyone, welcome back. This is Hemant. So guys, in our last video we just discussed about the basic detail about our APIs. Okay, so we just designed our controllers, we just designed our entity classes, designed our services, okay, and the repository. And other than this, we also designed kind of liquid based change log. Okay, so how we can just create our own change set, how we can just generate our columns, table and all. Okay, and we also see like the database change log tables, guys. So guys, let's do some interesting part today. So in our today's sessions, what we will do, we will just create one architectural design first, okay, for this monolithic flow. So guys, in our all sessions we will just design multiple architectures, okay, multiple architecture diagram. Like start with monolithic, later on we will just move on the microservices part and AWS integrations also. Okay, so let's move on the let's move on this graph where we can just like draw something. It's not the graph, but we can say like kind of representation in such a way so that we can easily understand what exactly we are just planning here. Okay, so earlier in our API we just basically designed some plain APIs, okay, and this in those APIs we basic design kind of normal API endpoint, just put some entry on the database just to verify the database, like whether the entries are properly saved or not, like persist or not, and while fetching the records those are coming properly. Okay, but in our today's sessions we will first just design our architectural diagram for all the services what we planned earlier. Okay, like we have users, we have products, we have orders, we have notifications. So we just planned like we will just design these 4 services initially in the monolithic, and later on we will just plan on a microservices format. Okay, so let's just design our architectural diagram. Okay, so guys, let me just first take these sections, and here we will just mention like what exactly we are just designing. Okay, so here we can just mention here like we have a Spring Boot, our monolithic application. Okay, so this Spring Boot monolithic application we are just planning to design. Okay, and here inside this we can just mention kind of we have, let me just add here like this. So in this monolithic applications what we design, so we always design our controller where we just mention our kind of endpoints. Okay, let me just copy. Okay, and paste. Oh, it's a different manner, so let me just copy it again, the same. Okay, this one. So we have controller. After controller we just design kind of service layer. Okay, so we have controller layer, we have service layer. Let me just mention the name as layer, okay, along with this controller. Okay, so we have controller layer, we have service layer, okay, and we have repository. Okay, so let me just mention the name as repository layer. Okay, and these are our, okay, let me just redefine this again, make this, I just want to be expand in such a way so that we can just make more data here. Okay, so yeah, so let me just remove this one. So currently we have controller layer, we have service layer, we have repository, and other than this guys we will just also use one very interesting topic. This is basically come most of the time in the interviews, like we have async event. Okay, async event. So earlier as I just mentioned, like we have multiple services we will just use like we have users, product, orders, and other than this we have also notification service. Okay, so whenever we just purchase anything, like any order we just generate, so that time this notification will generate. Okay, so this is our plain architecture. Okay, and from here, from the top, like this one, we have kind of client. Client is just nothing but we can say like from where the request is just coming. Okay, so this client can be, we can say like web. Okay, so initially we will just start from the web and later we will just move on the mobile part also. Okay, so this is our web and mobile. So the pattern, like all of the call, like here in such a way, like this one. Okay, so the calls just come in the system like in such a way. Okay, so first this call, like come from client, this client to, we can say like controller layer. Okay, so from the controller layer, this call just go like this in such a way, like from controller to service. Okay, controller to service layer. Okay, and this service layer, let me just copy this and paste again here. Okay, so that we can just see the flow. Oh, it's a mistake here. Let me redesign again, otherwise it will just create a confusion. Okay, I'm not that much good on the diagram creation, but yeah, at least I can just explain. Okay, so here we can just see like this is the flow, like from web the request just come to the controller, controller to service, service to repository. Okay, so now from this repository layer, our data just stored inside the database. So we can just put our database like here in some color, so we can just put like this. Okay, we can just, so here this is our Postgres SQL. Okay, this is our database, this is our DB. Okay, so from this repository layer, our data just go from here to this Postgres SQL database. Okay, and our service layer, so guys, we will just also use the concept of Redis cache. Okay, so cache we will just directly use here in our application to use the caching functionality. Okay, so sometimes like we just call, like kind of select, and in the select query we just like get a lot of records. Let's suppose 1 million of records we are just getting in any particular data. Let's suppose of employee records, all the employee from an organization. Okay, so that times, rather than fetching or hitting the same queries from the database and fetch this 1 million record again and again, is not a better approach. Okay, so rather we just use the concept of caching. Okay, so caching, so in the caching, like kind of Redis cache, Hibernate on caches, mem caches, so for all those I will just get a separate video. Okay, so no need to worry for this. So this one again, I'm just taking the symbol like this because we are just holding the data. Let me just put some color here. So this one I'm just putting name as Redis cache. Okay, so Redis cache, this will just link from here, from the service layer. Okay, yeah, let me just correct the design first. Okay, yeah, so this is the relation of service layer to Redis cache. Okay, so here from this service layer will just call like this one. So this service layer will just call our notification service. So we can just say like here from here like this one, and here we have like this. Okay, yeah, so our service layer just call our async, like this async event. Okay, like this one, and here we have kind of email SMS provider. So email SMS provider we can just add here. Okay, so let's suppose this one our email SMS provider. Let me just put some color, okay, so that it just look in a better way. So this is our email or SMS provider, we can say. Okay, so that we can just generate some async event. Let me just put the arrow. So guys, this one, what does it mean, like the async event? So sometimes like to do some orders. So order is kind of like whenever we just do some order, so parallelly some email we can say like just generate. Okay, but to generate the email along with the service on the same moment is not that much required. If you will just provide like email like after 2-3 minutes or after 1 minute or 2 minutes or some gap of some seconds, so that is also feasible and it's not a big like challenge in itself. So rather than make service heavy, what we will do, we will just create one async event or async notification for email. Okay, that's why we just bifurcate our services along with this async event. Okay, so this one. So guys, this is our plain architecture. So in our current project, like or in our current monolithic application, we will just discuss about all this, and once this entire design we will just implement, gradually we will just move like from this monolithic architecture to microservice migrations, and we will also use like for all those microservices, like we have users, orders, notification and all. For that we have their own databases and we will just communicate all those. Okay, so yeah, so let's start with monolithic first, so that your base is clear. Once your base is clear, you can just easily understand or relate the things. Okay, so guys, let me just move on our project. So before going project, let me just copy this image. Okay, so that we can just save this image in our system. Okay, so guys, this is our application, like e-commerce application. So this is my resource. Okay, so guys, earlier we have just created this changes folder for our change logs. Okay, and here in the change log, let me just create a file for our design. Okay, so this is our design architecture. Okay, so that this is our, let me just paste that thing here. Okay, so this is our image.png. you guys can see like whatever we just designed. I'm just putting that thing in my application so that we can just relate the things easily. Okay, and this is our changes, and let me just create one file for schema.csv. Okay, so inside this schema.csv we will just add like whatever the database schema we have. Okay, so earlier guys, in our code we have just used like this one. You guys can see like in our entity class we have product entity and we have just added like few columns. Okay, in the user entity we have few columns. So guys, as of now we will just make the things kind of production ready. Okay, so that we can easily understand whatever the things we just need to add. Okay, so let me just design the database schema here inside the schema.csv. Yeah, okay, so first of all I am just creating the tables here. So in the tables, let me just create the table users. Okay, so guys, this is our users table. Okay, so in the users table we have kind of id. So this id is our kind of primary key. So guys, this is in the IntelliJ. This is basically provide us some we can say suggestions in itself. So we can just pick those suggestions. So id, name we have, we can choose like email. Okay, so email we can like this, and along with this we can just also take as unique. Okay, we can inside the users table we can just also use the password. Okay, so guys, later on we will just use like some key clock implementations or some JWT authentication, but initially we can just use this password. Okay, and we can just also use some role. Okay, so role we have kind of like admin, or we have customers and all, and we can also add some status of the user. So our users is kind of we can say like either it is active or blocked. Okay, or some other status, might be some of the cases or some of the stage we just need to clear, then only our status is active. Initially we can say like we are in draft state, in active state, active or blocked state. Okay, and we can also take like some kind of created and updated ad. So guys, this is very useful so that we can just verify like in which state or at what time that particular user just created and when that user just updated. Okay, so this is our users table. So after users we can just create our products table. So products, it is just give us some suggestion. Okay, so suggestions like ID we can take, like again the primary key, we have the name of the product, we have some description, we have some price. Okay, so along with this price we can also take some category. Okay, so category is nothing but we can say like kind of category ID. So we can take this one as a foreign key. Okay, so this is one of our foreign key of some categories table. Okay, so later on we will just design this one, and this is our stock, like how much stock we have for that product. Okay, and later on once we just make the relationship, that time if any new thing just come in our mind, so we will just generate all those. Okay, so categories, that tables we can just design in future, but as of now I'm just designing a major tables. Okay, so let's suppose we have inventory. So inside the inventory we have kind of ID, product ID, we have quantity, and we can also add the location. Okay, from where this is a coming. Okay, yeah, so this is our inventory table. Okay, after that inventory we have kind of orders. Okay, so we have some orders. Okay, so orders means like from what users, I mean like what product just basically designed by what users. Okay, so we can just add, I mean like those details inside the orders table. Okay, but here this or inside the orders we don't have the relation between the orders and the products. Okay, so here the relationship between the users and the orders. So here we can just make one tables kind of order items. Okay, so inside the order items we can just put like ID we can add, or we can just add like order ID. Foreign key to this we can add like product ID, we can add quantity, we can add the price. Again we can just add this relationship. Okay, so this is a better choice if we just use along with this way. Okay, and later, so at the end we can just use the notification. Okay, so notification, so inside the notification along again we have the ID key, we have the user ID, so that we can just directly send this relation, I mean like sorry, this order details to the users. Okay, so along with the user ID we can also take the order ID, we have kind of message. Okay, so read status we can just add if we no need to, I mean like more burden on this notification service, so we can just take, I mean like plain this. Okay, and some kind of status we can just add here. Okay, so that we have pending, we have sent, or we have, okay, so this kind of status we can just add. So this is guys, this is our overall table structures what we have. So here I just missed the category, so this one we will just use later on. So this is not a big things in itself. Okay, so we just need to design each and everything gradually. Okay, so guys now we just need to restructure our project. So as of now you guys can see like everything we have just designed within the e-commerce folder. Okay, so what we just need to do, as of now we have like these 4 services what we discussed. Here what we will say 4 services or 4 modules. So currently we will say the name as modules. Okay, so we have 4 modules: users, orders, products, and notification. So currently we have like all these details. So what I will do, I am just creating one folder here like this package, and its name I am just putting as products. Okay, so inside this products I will just move all the folders. So you guys can see like this one, so I am just putting like this one. Okay, so I am just send refactoring, move classes and packages. Okay, and this one I am just moving to e-commerce products in this folder. Okay, the refactor here. So here you guys can see like inside the products we have all the details. Okay, so here we no need to worry about like this product and user entity. For user we have the separate. Okay, so it means we just need to create the similar relationship like the products, this with the product entity the same as user. Okay, so for that what we will do, we will just create one more package. Okay, so this one is for users. Okay, and again we will just create like here one more package for orders, and then we have the notification. Okay, then we have the notification. Okay, so here what we will do, so we will just design our all the relationship, like our config details, our controller details, our DTO, our entity, exception classes, our repository services, like and all. Okay, so guys, we just need to design, like our stuff in such a way so that each and every modules will define like in itself. For notification, we have our own controller for notification, like notification entity, notification controller, notification repository. Okay, so all the things related to that modules will be just like we can segregate it, or we will just add in such a way. Okay, so the same, I just created product. The similar, I just need to create the folder structure here. Okay, so here I will just create like config we have. So inside the notification, I just need to design the config. Okay, so let me add more packages here, like we have notification config, then we have notification controller. Okay, so here you guys can see like now we have config and controller. Okay, the same, we just need to design kind of, we have DTO. Okay, then we just need to design our entity classes. Okay, then we have repository, exception and all. Okay, then we have repository, then we have exception. Okay, then we have service. Okay, so guys, the similar structure we will just create for all 4 modules. Okay, and in our coming sessions we will just make like the entity classes accordingly for all these. Okay, like this, like user, products, inventory. So we will correspondingly, we will just create like what kind of relationship we should have. Okay, so we will just design. So guys, we will just use the GitHub Copilot to design the same things. Okay, so that we will just take very less time. And even in our last session, you guys already like seen, we just use this GitHub Copilot and just generate our Liquibase. Okay, Liquibase changelog, and it took very less time. So in our upcoming sessions, we will also take like the power of GitHub Copilot, so that we can easily just generate all our classes with this controller, DTO, entity, exception and repository and all. Okay, so guys, here our motive will to understand the flow. Okay, how monolithic system works, how all the modules interlinked, how they communicate with each other, how we just persist the data, how we just make the relationship between the tables. Okay, and here we will also take some business logic, business concepts, and we will also use some kind of stories, so that we can just understand how our e-commerce platform works. Okay, how a particular user perform any orders, and how all the orders just manage, and which product just come along with the orders, and whenever we just purchase any particular product, what kind of notification just generate here. Okay, and how this notification just send over the email, and how all the things just happen. Okay, so we will just see all the magic. And here we will just use, so in place of entity, earlier we are just exposing the entity to the outer world, but we will not expose the entity as of now. Now we will just use the DTO in place of entity, because entity is very heavy in itself. And other than this, we will also use kind of multiple queries, like how we can just fetch the record from multiple tables. Okay, so their relationship we will also see. We will just design a lot of queries. Okay, so that we have a very good hands-on the queries and relationship. Okay, so let's wait for the next video. So okay guys, So this is our today's sessions. It's wrap up. Now I'm just wrapping up the sessions. So in our coming session we will discuss all the stuff what I just mentioned. Okay, thank you for your time.